If you ever run cold email and ran out of leads, I have good news for you. In this video, I show you a method I use to basically never run out of fresh leads and find pretty much every business and their contact information out there. And we do this by scraping Google Maps at scale. I will show you in this video exactly how to build this workflow using N8N and Clay. And it's the same method I used to generate 2,000 sales opportunities in 25 with my agency. Here's a quick high-level overview of what we're going to build. So first off, we need a list of keywords for the type of business we want to scrape for and their location. Then we're going to find every business in this location. And once we have all the businesses, we find the contact information of people working there. So let's get started. Everything starts in Clay. What you're going to see here is we have a list of every city in the United States. This allows us to pretty much scrape the entire US and find every single business in the US. So we have this 29,000 records. And what we're going to do here is it's a ChatGPT prompt that creates a JSON object of the keywords we want to scrape from. So let's say in this use case, we want to scrape auto repair shops. I put in some keywords here and it creates 3 different rows. So it says auto mechanic, Hostville, New York, auto repair shop, Holtzville, New York, and then oil change near me, Hostel, New York. So we get a bit broader. You can add more keywords here. And each of those then is a single search we're going to scrape. So let's move to the next one. We're going to send this data here to the next table, which is all searches. So here we have all searches. So as you can see, now we have a record per keyword per location. And then here you see the different search queries coming up. So let's say I run this for the next one here. It formats it as a JSON object, so we can send it to the next table. And then it appears here. And the next step is, so now we have the search query. How are we going to scrape the search query? So what are we going to do here is we use serper.dev. Serper.dev is an API we can use to basically scrape Google searches and Google Maps. So it's really powerful. And the annoying part here, how it used to be, is you can only scrape one page. And we're going to fix this with N8N, and I'll show you exactly how. So now that we have the search query here, we use this HTTP API. And let me show you what we're going to do here. Here we send the information to our N8N workflow. So first you need to create a Serper account and then get the API and add it here. And then we can send the API key over to N8N. We send it to this N8N workflow. And then what we're going to send over is the search query we want to scrape. And as you can see here, now I'm in N8N. This is where the magic happens and where we scrape the data. So everything arrives here. You see that's my API key. I'm going to change it after this video. Then we have the search query we want to scrape for. And then we set the variables here so we can reuse them in the next step. And then what's going to happen is we use a JavaScript to basically call this API and scrape it. So it's in here. You can just pretty much copy it and use it yourself. And what it does, instead of just scraping page 1 and then sending the data over, it goes page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, and then sends all the results we got over. And that's the response to the webhook. We send it back to Clay. And now we're back here, and you can see the results coming in. So we have here the results. For example, here it found 9. And then you see, okay, this is a Quality Auto LLC. We have the website, we have the address, we have the title, we have the rating, everything. Next one is this one here. And you see it goes through each page that is out there. And this way, why it's so genius and so powerful is you can find every business that is listed on Google Maps in the entire United States. So for example, here we found, because it's Los Angeles, we found 200 records, which is so powerful. Like, it's probably a big chunk of contacts out there. So let's move to the next step. Now we found all those companies, we sent them over to the next table. And the first thing you might think, and what we really need to do here is super important, is deduplicate the rows. So maybe for the different keywords, it finds the same shop to make sure we don't enrich the same shops again, same companies again. We need to deduplicate. First thing you want to do here is normalize the domain. So for example, sometimes you see they have this UTM source, or it's their service page and not their main domain. We're gonna normalize this website using Clay here. Super simple, just normalize the domain, and then it removes the prefixes, and you have the final domain here. And then when you go on settings here, and then to auto browse, you select the normalize URL. So we're gonna normalize this URL. And then you can also score it for ICP fit. So I kept it simple here. If the website exists, just keep going. What you want to do if you, for example, do this for a different use case, use a Clayagent to go on the website and identify if they're an ICP fit. So now that we have all our ICP companies, we sent them over to the next table, which is now our cleaned list of companies where we want to find contacts. So you see all the companies here. We have the address, the phone number, the city name, the normalized URL. And now it's where it gets interesting. Now we want to find contacts at those companies. So the most cost-efficient way to do this is Clayagent. So you can tap into different lead databases or so on, like Apollo or so on, but they're quite expensive. And Clayagent is super cost-effective for this. So if you look at this, I ran this Clayagent here, it's 0.001 cent. So that's nothing. I can find hundreds of contacts for just 10 cents, basically, or thousands for a euro or a dollar. So how are we doing this? So first off, I wrote this formula here, which gives us all the titles we want to look for. So for example, let's say you want different job titles, put in different job titles. That's just an example. So those are the job titles and contacts the company is looking for, the Clayagent is looking for at the company. And what this Clayagent does, if you look here, pretty much we give it the instructions to find contacts. We input all the information, and then we just give it clear instructions on what to do. So we tell it, go to Google, search for LinkedIn, and find their contact information. And you see sometimes, especially for use case like auto repair shop, probably they're not on LinkedIn, hard to find. Sometimes they are, and then we find them here. And then you see here we have the contact information. It outputs the full name, first name, last name, the LinkedIn URL, their current title, and so on. So in case we can't find an email, we maybe still want to contact them. So I have this another Clayagent that basically finds any email that is on the website, like usually a normal team email or something like we have here, like sales. You can skip this part if you don't want to contact a generic email. For those local business outreach use case, it makes sense to just reach out to the sales email, because probably the owner is also monitoring this email. So as you can see, we still find some emails here. The next step is, now that we found the contact here, for example, this Alexander guy, or Alexander, exactly. We send the table data here to this table, which is the find people contacts. So as you can see, we have the company information here, and then we have Alexander's personal information, but what's still missing is his email. So what we're gonna do is we use the email waterfall. It's basically uses multiple data providers to find the email, and then we validate the email. And here, quick tip, I always start with ICPs because it's super cheap. Then go to LeadMagic, where I also have the API key, which is also cheap. And then I use the most cost-efficient providers, Kit, and then the next one, I don't remember what the name is of this one. And then Prospeo, Find Email, Hunter, Datamar, Vizor, and so on. So now we found the email. Now we still need to validate the email. So I double validate the emails. So if ICP finds it, I double validate it with Lead Magic and so on. And as soon as one of those two says it's valid, I use the email. So here we have the final email then, and then we just normalize the company name using ChatGPT. So it sounds a bit more natural if we drop it in an email. And yeah, this is basically it. So maybe to wrap this up real quick, how to find pretty much every business in the United States. We create this list of keywords here. So we have every county, every city in the United States. Then we match it with keywords we want to scrape for. Then we send all the keyword variations here. So now we have a list of search queries we're going to scrape. Then we send this over to serper.dev, which is this API here that allows us to actually scrape Google Maps. But to avoid only scraping one page, we're going to send it to our N8N workflow that then goes through each page and sends out all the information back into Clay. This allows us to give us this full company list. Then we clean the list, so we only have ICP fit companies in there. And then we simply use ClayGen to find contacts at those companies. And this gives us our final list for outreach. And that's it. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this is helpful. And if you want the Clay template, when you go on my website under resources, I give everything away for free. You can simply copy this template and use it yourself under the resource link. Thank you.